close consultation with Congress. Brianna.
Michelle Kaczynski at the White House, thank you. And I want to bring our panel in now. Retired Lieutenant General, Mark Hertling. He is a CNN military analyst, and Robert Baer, a CNN national security analyst and former CIA operative, as well as Ube Shabandar, a senior advisor to the Syrian opposition coalition. You know, General, the idea of airstrikes, a series of airstrikes, a prolonged campaign of airstrikes against ISIS, is that going to be enough to degrade and destroy ISIS, as the president says he wants to do?
Well, Brianna, I think the president said four things that as a military guy I wanted to hear him say. He said he wanted to blunt the momentum of ISIS, he wanted to degrade their capability, he wanted to shrink their territory, and then he wanted to defeat them. All of those things will take on added dimension. I don't think we want to telegraph all the things he's going to do. We see the Secretary of State getting multinational partners together to contribute to those four areas. So I think we've got a very long campaign in front of us. And again, as a soldier too, the American people support it today. Will they support it a year from now or 2 years from now? This is going to be a very long campaign.
But you think more than airstrikes, or airstrikes are sufficient?
Well, no, I don't think airstrikes are sufficient at all, but I think they will contribute certainly to what we're trying to do. There will be many, many more ways to approach this. The Secretary talked about other nations contributing. It could be the contributions of intelligence, the contributions of humanitarian aid. There are going to be a lot of things going into this fight from a lot of different countries, and airstrikes, both from the United States and possibly from some other countries, are going to be part of that.
And when the general was talking about this, how are the American people going to feel in a year, in 2 years, Obey? I mean, the New York Times right now citing a senior administration official that says the ISIS mission could take at least 3 years. What is your thought representing Syrian rebels?
Well, absolutely. There's no question that the campaign against ISIS doesn't really begin in earnest until airstrikes against ISIS's positions in Syria begin. That's the core for ISIS. And until the U.S. really launches in earnest a comprehensive campaign that includes supporting the ground forces existing in Syria today, led by the Free Syrian Army, that are fighting ISIS, then we really haven't even begun the fight to degrade ISIS.
But how long does it take? Does it take 3 years to degrade ISIS? To destroy ISIS?
It will take a long time. It will absolutely be a long campaign. And the sooner that the U.S. starts by launching the airstrikes, the faster that we can all conclude this joint mission to destroy ISIS.
Bob, when you look at this, I know there are some folks out there who think that even though we're hearing no U.S. combat boots on the ground, that ultimately that's what this will necessitate. There are many people who say no, and they say that's not going to happen. But do you think this mission could eventually lead to that?
Brianna, I think it'll lead to it if ISIS strikes the United States, especially within our borders, or even American targets in Europe. But what we're not looking at is very important is a unity government in Baghdad. I've been talking to the Sunnis from Anbar and Diyala provinces almost every day, and they see the negotiations in Baghdad occurring today as irrelevant. They said they're not coming back with the government there. They want complete changes in laws. They want the same status as the Kurdish area. And I think what we really need to do is drive a wedge between ISIS in Iraq and the Sunni population, which is nearly 2 million people, which we don't have an obvious solution for. I mean, at the end of the day, there are 20 million Sunnis living between Aleppo and Mosul, and we have to turn them against ISIS. I think they will turn against ISIS one day anyhow, but I would like to speed this up so it's a combination of a political solution and airstrikes.
And General, the president has said he'll go wherever is necessary. Today, during the White House briefing, we heard from Josh Earnest, the White House press secretary. When asked this question, what does that mean? Is this going to be airstrikes inside of Syria? He cited, he wouldn't quite commit to an answer, but he cited examples saying the U.S. wasn't afraid to go into Pakistan and get Osama bin Laden. So should we just read that as the U.S. will be conducting airstrikes in Syria? This is definitely going to happen.
No, I don't think we should read that as such, Brianna, but thankfully he didn't say anything. Because again, I go back to, we do not want to telegraph every one of our moves. I mean, there's an element of surprise, there's an element of overwhelming force that are all going to contribute to the fight against ISIS, wherever they might be. And again, I go back to what the White House has said the campaign strategy is going to be. From a soldier's perspective, I like it. I can deal with it, and this is going to be a long campaign. As Mr. Shabander said, he would like it to start in Syria. That might not be the best place to start, but I think the fact that we are actually executing a campaign is critically important.
Obey, we see a video today coming out from ISIS. We see that ISIS fighters have obtained a lot of weapons. They have seized weapons. How do, if the U.S. is arming Syrian rebels, how do they prevent ISIS from just taking over those weapons that are being given from the U.S.?
That's a very important question. The balance sheet right now is in the favor of ISIS. They've captured tons of military equipment from Iraqi military bases and from Syrian regime military bases. So the way that you really ensure that vetted and trained moderate Free Syrian Army rebels are able to effectively utilize American military aid is by ensuring that that military aid goes to those forces that are on the front lines fighting ISIS. You're never going to have 100% guarantee, but there is a good news story here. 100% of the U.S. origin TOW missiles, these anti-tank guided missiles, have been used effectively in the field. None of those advanced American military systems have fallen into the wrong hands.
All right, Obey, thank you so much. General Hertling, really appreciate you being with us as well. Bob Baer, thank you.